Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today I'm going to continue my segments on analysing the Necron Codex. Today I'm going to look at Imotekh Stormlord. Now, Imotekh is an interesting one, taking a very major discount when it came to chapter approved, like huge amount of point reduction, basically to try and make him work. Interesting to see if that is the case. There is certainly ways to use Imotekh. I haven't used them in 8th edition yet. I'll maybe go into a bit more details why that is the case at the end of the video. How these work, especially for special characters, is I'd like to do a wee bit of lore, just discussing the characters themselves. I'll then look at the rules as they are in the book and special abilities, etc. Talk about the Legion trait, how it might be useful for them, Warlord traits might be good, and stratagems. Usually might discuss psychic abilities as well, but because we've got Catan powers that don't buff units, won't really be applicable here. So with that, let's have a look at a little bit of lore on Imotekh Stormlord. Imotekh The Stormlord is by all accounts a strategic genius. This is not a bold claim he's making that he cannot justify. I mean, he does make the claim, and you know, pretty big running theme of Imotekh that he's like to prove himself as the best, and it is sometimes his downfall. Imotekh was famed general before his rest. However, when he was awoken on the tomb world, Mandragora, I pronounced that wrong, in a civil war for who could be, the leader of that tomb world. Imotekh decided that he would be leader and crushed pretty much all the opposition. Imotekh has begun unleashing his strategic genius upon the universe, and woe to anyone who has to plan a campaign against him. Everything is meticulously planned in stages ahead, and plans upon plans upon plans to ensure his victory. Which brings us to Imotech's first major problem. It's a pretty big one. It's orcs. He can not work them out for the life of him. Like, orcs confound him. He is a logical thinker and can adapt to logical thinkings of his opponents and predict their move and plan for it and counter it. But orcs are not your typical logical race, and this confounds Imotekh to no end. I don't know if it's perhaps he's just overthinking the problem. I mean, there's many leaders out there who have good fortunes and know how orcs work and do pretty well against them. Or they know how to plan against them, but it's a true weakness for Imotekh. It drives him nuts. Anything that, anytime he has to face orcs, he's like, oh geez, what am I going to do? So yeah, not a fan of orcs. They just seem to be his kryptonite. Kryptonite. Anyway, Imotek's other, I guess you could say, problem, but maybe depending on it, is his pride, and sort of he has to prove it. He has to prove that he's the best. This led to Imotekh to use fear as a weapon, often letting leaders or generals survive to go on to back to the race to prove to their defeat and his fearsome battle prowess. He does not, however, let them go unscathed when he does this. He has to sort of leave a mark, often, usually taking a limb or something that, shows that he has actually beat them. Though when it comes to Necrons, when it comes to kleptomania and, taking stuff from their opponents, there's one Necron who does it a lot better. But we'll get to that character later. They are, yeah, they're the collector. Anyway, we'll speak about them later. Famously, he came up against Elder and taken a hand, and against Black Templar's High Marshal Helbrecht, who suffered a personal defeat in combat to Imotekh. Though Imotekh is by far not the most skilled combatant in the universe, though he likes to think he might be on top of there, he really does think that much of himself. Helbrecht inflicted several major damage against him, but could not destroy Imotekh. Eventually, after a time, Imotekh did take enough damage, he got the best of Helbrecht. And eventually, with this defeat of Helbrecht, he let him go, but he took his right hand and cast him away. Eventually, Helbrecht did come back and did a blow against Imotekh. I think he destroyed one of his flagships, which, was good, but still hasn't slain the Stormlord himself. And so Imotekh has a habit of making enemies, and the universe has plenty of enemies to make. Working on his strengths, Imotekh could outwit many of the great minds out there. However, it's his pride sometimes may be his downfall. If he wants to take them on in personal combat, that may lead to his downfall, where he finds an opponent who is just that much stronger than him and may work to be his detriment. So yeah, he may be able to outthink everyone, but if he lets his pride take the best of him, he may find himself destroyed. So yeah, let's speak about his actual rules. So let's see what Imotech's like. So any stats wise, we have him as movement 5, which is kind of standard for a foot slogging Necron. Weapon skill, Bliss skill 2, which is pretty standard. Strength 5, toughness 5, yep. 6 wounds, which I think is pretty standard for Necron lords. 6 wounds, which, yep, could have been nicer to be a bit more, but okay. Only 3 attacks, which I'm a little bit, I feel Imotekh should have been 4, maybe 5, just to show a bit more battle prowess. I mean, he's not the best in combat, but he's certainly not the worst, and he's certainly quite good. So I thought, you know, maybe 4 attacks would be nice. Leadership 10, but a 2+ save, which makes him quite survivable. Imotekh The Stormlord is armed with Staff Destroyer and the Gauntlet of Fire. Gauntlet of Fire is range 8, Assault D6, Strength 4, 0 AP, 1 damage. This weapon hits automatically. It's a flamer. It's a flamer. Yeah. I'd expecting a little bit better from the Gauntlet of Fire. With a name like that, you'd expect it to be a little bit more powerful, but it's a flamer, all in name. Got the Staff Destroyer in shooting, which is range 18, Assault 3, Strength 6, -3 AP, 2 damage. Bit more stronger Staff of Light, which is nice, but not bad. And then Staff Destroyer in melee. Melee weapon, +1 strength, making him strength 6, -3 AP and 2 damage. Again, stronger Staff of Light, not anything fearsome, you know, 2 damage is okay, great AP, strength 6, okay. Means he'll do okay in combat, but essentially he has only got 3 attacks, which is not the best either. He has living metal, so he will recover wounds in a turn. We'll talk about that in a bit more detail. Pharaoh, we'll speak about that one at the end. So we have Lord of the Storms. This is his sort of ranged ability. Once per battle in your shooting phase, Imotekh may call the storm. Pick an enemy unit within 48 inches of Imotekh, other than a character, and roll a d6. On a 2+, that unit suffers that many mortal wounds. Then roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 6 inches of that unit. On a 6, the unit being rolled for suffers d3 mortal wounds. Not bad. I mean, it'll give you a reliable amount of mortal wounds, so there might be a deadly unit that your opponent's like fielded and you're like, they're in cover or something, or really hard to get. Yep, pick them, cause a lot of mortal wounds, and you might cause more around them as well. I don't heavily rate it because you might get, you know, get the storm on a 2, great. You might roll a 1, not get the storm, and then you might roll 1 or 2 mortal wounds as a bit of a waste, and then you might not cause any other mortal wounds around you because it is a 6 to cause those additional ones. It's okay, but you know, if there's ways to make it better, I'd be a little bit more pleased. Yeah, not bad, but not the best. We've then got Undying. Imotekh Stormlord regains d3 lost wounds at the beginning of your turn rather than 1 from his living metal. Yep, that's not bad, you know, pretty good on that one. My Bloodswarm Nero Scarabs, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly units of Sutek Flayed ones that are within 12 inches of Imotekh Stormlord. So I like this in the sense that it buffs Flayed ones very, very, makes sense lore-wise because he's got the Bloodswarm Nero Scarabs. I just feel like it shouldn't have been the hit rolls. I mean, you know, although when you take Flayed ones, you're likely to go with Novuk because then you get to reroll all the hits, you know, rather than just ones if you take them as part of Sutek. I would have maybe liked it if it allowed on hit and wound rolls of 1 on Flayed ones. That would have been really good. Although they get to actually reroll ones in general when it reroll all their wounds anyway. So maybe add 1 to hit rolls would have been really nice. Generally, not bad if you're Sutek Flayed ones, but really you want to aim for Novuk Flayed ones, so not really so on that one either. Grand Satirus, if your army is battlefold, you receive 1 additional command point if Imotekh The Stormlord is your Warlord. Not bad. I feel when it comes to strategic, you know, Grand Strategist ones, characters, adding a command point is fine. I think Abaddon adds maybe 2, so is that saying he's a better strategist? He is pretty good. But I feel maybe there should have been a little bit more extra on that one. Maybe that if you use a command point, you roll a dice on a 5+, you get the command point back, similar to the Imotekh Warlord trait, which he actually technically does have. So he technically does have that ability. Maybe add 1 to it, so it does it on a 4 as well as add an additional command point. The 1 additional command point feels a little bit lackluster. Phase Shifter, Imotekh The Stormlord has 4-up invul. Perfectly happy with that. My will be done. At the beginning of your turn, choose a friendly Necron infantry unit within 6 inches of Imotekh the Warlord. Add a 1 to advance, charge and hit rolls for that unit until the beginning of your next phase. The unit can only be chosen as the target of this ability once in each turn. Very good, but if you add in Pharaon of Imotekh Dynasty, Imotekh The Stormlord may use My Will Be Done ability twice in a turn, but only if you choose friendly Imotekh infantries to be affected by it both times. So the important thing is his My Will Be Done may be used on any Necron infantry, meaning that it can be other Dynasty ones or other units that can't usually be targeted by it. Looking at you know, Triarch Praetorians, etc. If they're infantry, then they get it. But the ability to put My Will Be Done for free instead of spending command points in 2 units is probably Imotech's greatest strength. So give you an example. Say for instance you had 2 units of Necron Immortals, both armed with Tesla. That means that you could put him to buff both those units at a time, so that their Tesla abilities then activate on 5s on both units. I believe they're Assault 2, so 24 inches with Tesla, if I'm right when it comes to Immortals. Yep, Tesla Carbine, Assault 2, 24 inches. So every time they score a 6+, each one of those hits on 6+ scores 3 hits, but this becomes 5 when you have Imotekh nearby. So that gives you a good range of 24 inches, buff to their Tesla, makes these 2 Immortal units pretty good. So sitting in the backfield with Imotekh to do that is pretty good. Add on the Imotekh Stratagem, where you can essentially add, you know, if you cause a wound on a target, you can add 1s to hit rolls on them. Means that, you know, plus his Pharaon of the Imotekh on Immortals, meaning that, and I'll just remember what that stratagem is. It is, I believe, Methodical Destruction. Yep, add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Imotekh units that target the same enemy unit this phase. It's only if you inflict an unsafe wound on it. So yeah, it can make it more reliable to just cause more damage, means that your Immortals are 4+. Yeah, Pharaon the Imotekh Dynasty is probably where you're going to see the biggest advantage of Imotekh the Stormlord. Yeah, I'll go into summary onto him a bit later. We'll go into quickly his Legion traits, Warlord traits, because they're quite easy to go through. Legion traits, Imotekh Relentless Advance. So this adds literally nothing to Imotekh personally, like nothing. He already has assault weapons and no heavy weapons. This is pretty common for Imotekh characters, but is by no means a bad trait, just it doesn't benefit them directly. So yeah, not really ideal for Imotekh. Warlord trait is not bad, certainly before Tactical Restraint it was a high contender for best one. However, I'm less pleased with it. It's a bit more difficult for Necrons to farm command points compared to other codexes. When it comes to it, there are a few options for Warlord traits which could complement your force a bit better, certainly in my playstyle they do. However, it is a preset one when it does come to Imotekh, so it's not bad. Also, the personal reroll isn't bad. Imotekh is no slouch in combat, but not great, so you'll probably get, you know, the reroll will become beneficial, but I just don't feel it's the best with him. Stratagem recommendations. There's honestly not many that benefit the commanders themselves. There's a vast array of stratagems that benefit the Necron army as a whole, but there ain't many that are for the HQs, or at least for Imotekh in this one. A couple actually do benefit a few other commanders, but we're focusing on Imotekh. Resurrection Protocols, 1 command point. Use a stratagem when a Necron character from your army, excluding Transcend the Infinite and Catan Shards, are slain. At the end of the phase, roll a d6 on a 4+, set that character up again as close as possible to the previous position and more than 1 inch away from enemy models with 1 wound remaining. This stratagem cannot be used to resurrect the same model more than once per battle. So this is also about keeping going. The advantage of this is that if your opponent slays you in your opponent's turn, which is likely to be the case, the advantage truly is that, you know, when you come back, you know, Imotekh will come back at the end of their turn, and then he'll get D3 wounds back. So you're potentially looking at the beginning of your turn, Imotekh setting up with 4 wounds again, which is pretty good, you know, for 1 command point. However, I think if they did, you know, this in a situation, I think basically, you know, we saw this in a battle report through Games Workshop. They did a battle report where they said, look, if you bring back a warlord who has died, and then bring them back due to resurrection protocols, you still get slay the warlord because you did achieve slaying the warlord, though they may have came back. At one point they did get slain this battle round. I don't think it affects Kingslayer. I think you have to have that card in your hand when you achieve it, and you might get it. But when you do achieve slay the warlord when they die the first time round, you just don't get it a second time. I'm interested to hear what people say. You know, slay the warlord does affect when they're slain, so yeah, it does affect it even if you come back. I would allow it even though you come back. Next up we have Entropic Strike for 1 command point. Use the stratagem in the fight phase before Necron characters from your army fights. Invuln saves cannot be taken against the first close combat attack made by this character. So it's okay. I mean, you're already dangerous with -3 AP, 2 damage. You know, you still might miss the attack, you still might fail the wound, and then even then a regular armor save might still actually save your opponent. I can see this being better on heavier hitter units, stuff that do 3 damage rather than 2, and it's still just a bit of a risk for 1 command point. But certainly if your opponent's like got a storm shield, then yeah, getting through those 2 damage may be essential to killing them. But generally I just find it a little bit difficult to justify. Methodical Destruction, 2 command points. Use the stratagem after a Imotekh unit from your army has inflicted an unsaved wound on an enemy unit. Add 1-hit rolls for friendly Imotekh units that target the same enemy unit this phase. So this is the one that I spoke about when I said that you might want to use it when you're using Immortals. So this can work well, you know, for instance you might even use Imotek's Lord of the Storm ability to inflict mortal wounds, so you're pretty safe to know the wounds are there, and then you can add in the Tesla and all the shots from your Immortals to further cause damage. But other units can cause the wound first, and then your Tesla can benefit from it as well. Generally I think that plus the Pharaon of Imotekh Dynasty along with Immortals with Tesla are going to see the best benefit from Imotekh the Stormlord. So that's my thoughts when it comes to Imotekh. If I was to say a bit underwhelmed, I wouldn't be exaggerating there. I think the Gauntlet of Fire could be better. I think his abilities to do more strategy as a sort of support character would be good. Maybe a little bit more, you know, damaging would be good as well. When we're saying that the fact that My Will Be Done being used twice is his biggest advantage, when you can achieve that with other units but you have to spend 1 command point a turn to do it, I can understand why he got such a reduction in points. I don't think now for his points it's not too bad, but I've read this elsewhere where it's just summarised that if you don't plan to use the Pharaon of the Imotekh Dynasty with him, you essentially are wasting your points. So yeah, I think if anything, Imotekh, to make him the more fearsome strategic commander, or even combat, maybe not the best, but certainly more combat orientated, would be good. Very interested to hear what people think of Imotekh Stormlord. Very interested to think if the reduction in points has made him more of a viable target to use in games. So very interested in general to hear people's views on him. So thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Check us out on social media. We have new projects coming underway and you'll see our progress with them. And check us out on Patreon to hopefully support the channel so we can bring you more content because we absolutely love doing so. So thanks again for watching and we'll see you on another Tabletop Assault Battle Report.